Welcome to Crying Inside, where we share heartfelt family stories. Thank you for always being with us, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any touching and meaningful stories. There are family truths that, once revealed, can change your whole life. No noise, no warning, just one moment, and everything you believed in suddenly feels completely different. Today, I'll take you to Quezon City on a warm Christmas night. Jose Mari Chan's music fills the air, the smell of bibingka and lechon everywhere, and the family gathered close. Everything seemed like just a normal reunion party, until Mom pulled out an old photo album. In those faded pages, a surprising moment happened. A glance, a whispered question, and from there, a journey to find oneself, heal, and forgive began. Laughter and Christmas music echoed throughout the living room. The Christmas tree in the corner sparkled with golden lights. The scent of freshly baked bibingka mixed with the aroma of lechon made the atmosphere warmly inviting. Elena sat close to Marco on the couch, surrounded by her mother, Aling Rosalinda, and a few relatives chatting excitedly. Mom placed the old photo album on the table, gently tapping the cover. MGA Ala Ala ng Pasko, our family's Christmas memories. The worn leather cover, slightly curled corners, and faint, old paper smell brought Elena back to distant years. She smiled, took the album, and flipped through the pages. The first pictures were still familiar. The whole family standing in front of Quiapo Church, trips back home to Batangas, Elena in a red dress receiving gifts from Santa Claus at the mall. Everything seemed normal, until Marco tilted his head slightly, eyes fixed tightly on one photo. Suddenly, he grabbed her hand under the table, his hand cold and firm. "Can't you see it?" His voice low and soft, just enough for her to hear. Elena frowned slightly. "See what?" Marco didn't answer right away. His gaze stayed on the photo, as if seeing something unbelievable. Then he shook his head gently, let go of her hand, gave her mother a forced smile, and pretended to turn to another page. But Elena clearly felt that something was very wrong. Her heart raced, her palm still cold from Marco's hand. Scene transition. The phone rang 3 times before the operator answered. 911, what's your emergency? Elena stood in her kitchen, her hands trembling as she held the phone. Her voice caught. "There's something. I think I just discovered something." Outside the window, Christmas night still sparkled with lights. But for Elena, everything had changed. What in that photo turned a warm Christmas party into a nightmare? The answer lies deep within those old album pages. Elena's mother, Rosalinda, was always the heart of their Christmas parties. For her, Christmas wasn't just a time to gather, but a chance for family and friends to come together over a carefully prepared feast. Every year, she started decorating the house in early November, hanging pearl lanterns on the windows, putting up fresh wreaths bought from Divisoria, and always setting up a tall Christmas tree nearly touching the ceiling, covered in tinsel and sparkling ornaments. Elena's father, Antonio, was the complete opposite. He was quiet, usually sitting in the corner with a glass of red wine, eyes watching everything but rarely joining the conversation. To the guests, he was a calm, reserved man. But to Elena, he was like a wall she couldn't reach. Paolo, Elena's younger brother, was just 20, but always cherished by the whole family. Since he was little, Paolo was praised for being smart and lively, and he pretty much got whatever he wanted. At every party, Paolo was the center of attention, cracking jokes and telling fun stories that made everyone laugh. Their parents looked at him with pride, a kind of pride Elena rarely felt directed at her. Tonight's dinner was no different. The table was covered with a pristine white cloth and loaded with traditional dishes. Golden bibingka, fragrant with coconut, crispy lechon skin gleaming with fat, colorful pancit bihon, and of course, bright red queso de bola. Jose Mari Chan's music played softly throughout the room, mingling with the clinking of glasses and bursts of laughter. Guests greeted each other with Maligayang Pasko, while children ran around the Christmas tree. On the surface, it was a perfect Christmas. But to Elena, a familiar feeling crept into her heart, the feeling of being an outsider in her own family. Since she was little, she knew how to sit and smile, nod, and appear to fit in, but inside there was a void. The stories at the dinner table often revolved around Paolo, or memories where she only appeared briefly, like a supporting character. Elena remembered her childhood, the time she tried to tell her mom about a day at school but only got rushed answers or a distracted look. Meanwhile, Paolo just needed to show a high test score to get hugs and praise. She wasn't jealous, but that feeling of not fitting in stuck with her, like she was always the odd piece in the family puzzle. There were secrets Elena couldn't even name. Many times, she wondered why there weren't many pictures of her as a child, or why her memories before age 5 were so faint. Whenever she tried to ask, her mom brushed it off with, "You were too little back then, why remember?" Or, "Don't think about things that are past." When she was little, Elena thought that was normal, but as she grew up, that emotional distance became more obvious. Amid the laughter, Elena absent-mindedly looked around the table. Everyone looked happy, but inside she felt down. It wasn't just the loneliness of someone standing outside the fun, but a vague feeling that something in this family had never been spoken about. Something that, if she found out, she would never see things the same way again. Tonight, when her mom brought out the photo album, Elena had no idea those secrets were about to come to light, and it would change forever how she saw her family. As the album passed from one hand to another, Elena still smiled, trying to blend into the warm atmosphere. But beside her, Marco was almost completely silent. He slowly flipped through the pages, his gaze so focused that Elena had to gently tap his hand to get his attention. The pages with photos from when she was about 5-7 years old looked normal at first glance. One at Luneta Park, another at Batangas Beach, and one more at the Pahillas Festival in Lucban. But as Marco looked closer, he noticed something very strange. In every photo, Elena's face was exactly the same. The smile never changed, even though the backgrounds were completely different. The light on the face doesn't match the background, and even the angle is exactly the same as if someone cut her face out and placed it into different photos. Marco said nothing, just glanced at Elena and kept flipping through. At another photo, he frowned slightly, his finger gently touching the edge of the picture. This time it wasn't Elena in the photo, but another little girl with longer hair, lighter skin, and a completely different smile. But the photo was right in the middle of the family memories, captioned by Elena's mom in ink. "Elena, Christmas in the province." Marco's heart started pounding. He looked around, saw everyone busy chatting, then discreetly pulled a few photos from the loose pile next to the album and carefully slipped them into his jacket pocket. Elena didn't notice, still answering a relative's question. The party lasted until almost 10 p.m. When they said goodbye and stepped outside, the cool Christmas night breeze brushed their faces. Elena held Marco's hand, smiling. "You've been quiet all evening. Is something wrong?" Marco didn't answer right away. They got in the car, and after a few blocks, he stopped at the curb and turned off the engine. He pulled several photos from his jacket pocket and handed them to her. "Look closely." Elena took them. At first, just seeing pictures she had seen many times before. "So, they're just old photos of me." Marco leaned over, pointing to details in each picture. "Don't you see? The same smile, the same angle, the same lighting, in 3 completely different settings. This isn't natural, Lena." She smiled softly, trying to brush off the suspicion. "Maybe it's just a coincidence. Kids do smile like that all the time." Marco didn't stop. He pulled out the photo of the unknown girl. "What about this little girl? In your family album, your mom captioned this as you. But clearly, it's not." Elena looked more closely, her initial confidence starting to waver. She didn't remember ever wearing the dress in the photo, nor did she recall any trip to the province, as the note said. A chill slowly crept down her spine, but she tried to stay calm. Maybe Mom was mistaken. It's an old photo. Anyone could mix things up. Marco shook his head, his voice deepening. "No, Elena, this isn't a mistake. This is something else. Something they didn't want me to know." In that moment, Elena felt her heart pounding so loudly she could hear it in her ears. She wanted to push the thought away, but the photos in her hands seemed to be whispering a secret. And that secret was the beginning of everything that would change after tonight. Sitting in the car, still gripping the photos Marco gave her, Elena felt like scattered memories in her mind were being stirred up. All these years, she'd never really thought much about her early childhood until now. Elena realized she didn't have any memories before she turned 5. No blurry images, no specific stories, just a dark void, and whenever she tried to picture it, her head ached like someone was squeezing it tight. Since she was little, whenever she asked her mother why she couldn't remember anything, Rosalinda always gave the same answer. It was a car accident when you were very young. You had a severe concussion, so your brain erased some memories to protect you. That's not important anymore. When she was a child, Elena believed her. But now, looking at the photos Marco pointed out, she wasn't so sure it was true. A flicker of an image flashed in her mind, hazy like mist, but clear enough to make her heart tighten. A young woman with soft black hair, the scent of sampaguita flowers faintly coming from her clothes. She bent down, touched Elena's cheek, smiled, and called out, "Amara!" a name that sounded both strange and familiar. Elena clearly remembered the warmth and peace she felt hearing it, as if that was her real name. Then the memory faded quickly, replaced by an unexplainable fear. She remembered she had asked her parents a few times, "Did I have a different name when I was little?" But as soon as she asked, her father just stayed silent, and her mother changed the subject, asking about school or telling her to come help in the kitchen. Each time, Elena felt an invisible barrier between her and the truth. That feeling grew stronger when she recalled an afternoon at 15 years old. She came home early from school and saw her mother sitting in front of the laptop. The screen showed a Facebook message from a strange account with a foreign name, a red heart, and some words in a language Elena didn't understand. Her mother startled when she saw Elena, then quickly deleted the message, blocked the sender, and shut the laptop. When Elena asked who it was, her mother just gave a faint smile. Probably just spam, some random strangers sending nonsense. But Elena clearly remembered her mother's hand was slightly trembling, and her eyes avoided looking directly at her. At that time, Elena brushed these things off, because she had no reason to suspect anything deeper. But now, with the identical photos and the face of a strange little girl labeled as Elena, all those strange moments were starting to connect. Part of her wanted to believe it was all just a coincidence, that her parents would have a reasonable explanation. But the other part, shaking with intuition, whispered that the answer wouldn't be easy to accept. Elena leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes, and the image of the woman with the sampaguita scent appeared again. That smile, those eyes. Why did they feel so familiar, yet didn't match any face in her current family? Marco sat silently beside her, but his hand gently rested on her knee as a gesture of comfort. Elena opened her eyes and took a deep breath. She knew it was time to find out the truth. Secrets buried too long don't just disappear, and she couldn't live with this void any longer. That afternoon, Elena called her mother with an unusually calm voice. "Mom, can you and Dad come to my apartment tonight? I have something I want to talk about." On the other end, Rosalinda hesitated for a moment, but then agreed. When the knock came, Marco stood beside Elena. She took a deep breath before opening the door. Her mother came in holding a box of sapin cake, followed by her father Antonio, whose face was hard to read. They sat on the sofa, their eyes expectant for a normal conversation. But Elena didn't beat around the bush. She placed the stack of photos Marco had taken at their Christmas house on the table. "Mom, Dad, I want to know the truth about these pictures." Her father frowned while her mother glanced over and said, "They're just childhood photos of you, why?" Elena cut her off. "No, they're not. These photos are identical, only the backgrounds are different. And here," she held up the photo of the strange little girl, "this person isn't me, but she's labeled as me." The atmosphere in the room grew heavy. Father Antonio folded his arms, avoiding his daughter's gaze. Her mother pressed her lips together, then tried to smile. "You're overthinking it. Old photos can be misleading sometimes." Marco spoke up confidently. "We all clearly see this photo has been edited. So why do that?" A long silence followed. Then Dad Antonio sighed and whispered, "Elena, you're not our biological child. Elena felt all the sounds in the room fade away. She stared at them, trying to grasp the meaning of those words. Her mom continued, "We took you from the conflict zone in Mindanao when you were about 5 years old. Back then, the situation was dangerous. And you wouldn't have survived there. We saved you." Elena clenched her fists. "If you really saved me, then why edit the photos? Why not tell the truth from the start?" Mom looked down at the table. "Because I was afraid. Afraid you would feel abandoned, like you didn't belong. I thought if you believed you were always part of the family, you'd be happier." Elena gave a bitter smile. "Happy? When my whole childhood was a blank?" Marco leaned forward. "Do you know who Elena's real mother is?" Mom's eyes flickered. Dad Antonio answered instead, "Yes, we know her name, but we never looked for her." Elena stared at them sharply. "Why not?" Mom stayed silent for a long moment, then whispered, "Because I was afraid. If we found her, you would leave us." Those words stabbed deep like a knife. Elena didn't know whether to be angry, heartbroken, or pity them. She stood up, walked to the window, trying to hold back tears. Outside, the city was still noisy, as if it didn't know her whole world had just changed. She turned back, voice trembling but determined. "I need to know her name." Dad looked at Mom, then slowly said, "Luzviminda Reyes." The name sounded like a key, unlocking a door Elena had never dared to touch. She didn't say another word, just nodded. Inside, she knew this was only the beginning, and that the truth ahead might be even more painful than all she had just heard. That very evening, after her parents left the apartment, Elena sat down at the dining table with Marco. In front of them was a small piece of paper with the name written in Dad's slanted handwriting, Luzviminda Reyes. Below it was vague information. San Isidro Village, Davao del Sur. Elena stared at the name, both unfamiliar and making her heart race. She had never heard anyone in the family mention Davao del Sur. To her it was a distant place, only appearing in news reports about storms or conflicts. Marco opened his laptop and started searching. "We'll try every way," he said firmly. They searched on Google, but there was too much information about Luzviminda Reyes. The common name made filtering results difficult. After a few hours, Marco suggested searching on Facebook, where everyday photos might reveal more. Elena typed the name into the search bar, narrowing the location to Davao del Sur. Dozens of accounts appeared, mostly with landscape photos, fruits, or family pictures. They scrolled through each page until Elena suddenly paused. One account had a profile picture of a woman standing in a rice field, hair tied back, face not smiling but the eyes. Those eyes made Elena catch her breath. They were exactly like her eyes. The same deep brown color, the same calm, profound gaze. Elena clicked on the page. The few photos were mostly landscapes or market scenes. There were no pictures of children with her, but Elena felt a strong intuition. This could be the person she was looking for. Her heart pounding. She opened the message box. Her fingers nervously typed in English. "I think I might be your daughter." Marco reread it, nodded. Short, but enough to catch her attention. He hit send for her, as if giving Elena time to breathe. Hours passed with no reply. Night fell. Elena lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning with countless possibilities. What if she really was her birth mother? What if she had a new family and didn't want to meet again? Close to midnight, the phone vibrated. It was a new message from that account. Elena jumped up and opened it. "Puede ba tayong mag-usap? Can we talk?" Elena felt her heart tighten. Just 7 words, but they held a world of emotions. She quickly replied, agreeing to set a time. Marco suggested a video call the next day, so the waiting wouldn't drag on any longer. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, looking at the city lights, imagining what the woman's face in the photo would look like when she saw her. Questions flooded her mind. Would she recognize her right away? Would Amara, the name faintly remembered, slip from her lips? The next morning, when the phone screen showed the video call, Elena felt her hands turn ice cold. Marco sat beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder, reassuring her. "You don't need to have the perfect answer. Just be yourself." The image began to appear. The woman in the photo appeared on screen, her hair more streaked with gray, her face marked by the years. She raised her hand to her mouth, eyes wide open, and in that moment Elena knew. She recognized her. Anak, her voice trembling, then hesitating. Amara? Elena felt her heart explode with emotion. That name, which had existed only in a blurry memory for so many years, now clearly spoken by the very person who once called it. And she knew the journey to find herself truly began right there. The phone screen still softly vibrating in Elena's hand. The woman on the other side seemed to be holding back tears as well, her voice trembling, each word tearing through the secret veil Elena had lived with for over 20 years. You really are my Amara. Back then, I left you with the neighbors to watch over. I only needed to go to the government office to finish the resettlement paperwork. It was just for a few hours. But when I came back, you were gone. Elena felt her heart tighten painfully. She continued, eyes full of sorrow. They told me you went with another woman, someone I trusted. I ran everywhere looking for you, to every police station, every refugee camp, but no one knew where you were. Back then in Davao, the conflict was intense, and they just said missing children were common. Elena bit her lip hard, her hand under the table clenched into a fist. She had heard about disappearances in conflict zones before, but never thought she would be one of them. Luzviminda hesitated for a moment, then continued. It was only much later that I learned. A family from Manila had taken you in. They needed a child to qualify for a resettlement program and receive special support when moving to Luzon. They used you as a ticket to escape the war. That sentence stabbed deep into Elena's heart. She heard Marco take a deep breath beside her, but all she could feel was her own heart pounding in her chest. In her mind were the images of her foster parents, the ones who raised her, but also the ones who hid the truth for so many years. Elena tried to find the words to express her feelings, but none were enough. She was both angry that her childhood was stolen and relieved to finally know where she came from. That relief was strange, like a locked door suddenly opening, letting light in, even if it revealed the cracks inside. Mrs. Luzviminda raised her hand to the screen, as if trying to touch Elena's face. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. For 25 years, I have prayed every day to find you again. I've kept the house in San Isidro just the same. Your room is still there, just like the day you disappeared. Elena swallowed hard, placing her hand on the screen against her mother's virtual hand. I don't know what to say. Part of me wants to hug you right now, but another part, it still doesn't know how to forgive. She nodded softly. You don't have to forgive me right away. Just give me a chance to make it up to you. The call lasted over an hour. They shared the missing pieces of their lives with each other. Elena heard about the harvest seasons in San Isidro, about the sampaguita tree her mother still tended every day by the porch. Her mother heard about Elena's life in Manila, about Marco, about the gaps in her memory, and the loneliness she felt throughout her childhood. When the call ended, Elena leaned on Marco's shoulder and closed her eyes. She knew the face-to-face meeting was something that couldn't be delayed. But at the same time, she also knew the journey ahead wouldn't be just about joyful reunion. It would mean facing the past, the pain, and learning to stand strong after it all. Because even though her childhood was stolen, the rest of her life still belonged to her. And Elena decided she would live it as someone who truly knows who she is. Amara of Luzviminda and Elena of the present. One early March morning, Elena and Marco took an early flight to Davao del Sur. As the plane landed at the small provincial airport, her heart raced wildly. The scent of sea breeze mixed with damp earth filled the cabin as the door opened, bringing a feeling both strange and familiar. At the airport gate, Mrs. Luzviminda stood waiting. When their eyes met, Elena seemed to forget everyone around her. She hurried forward and wrapped her arms tightly around her daughter. The warmth from that embrace made Elena choke up, her shoulders trembling. For the first time in over 20 years, she felt a deep blood connection, something she had always missed at family gatherings that seemed warm but weren't. Mrs. Luzviminda took from her bag a handkerchief, faded and with slightly frayed edges, but still clearly embroidered with the name. Amara. I embroidered this for you myself, when you turned 3, she said, her voice trembling. Elena lifted the handkerchief, her fingers gently tracing each stitch. A faint memory suddenly flooded back. Laughter, the scent of sampaguita, and these hands tying the cloth around her neck on a cold morning. In the days that followed, Elena stayed in San Isidro, getting to know the neighbors and listening to her mother tell stories about every corner of the old house. Though some memories were still missing, she clearly felt herself being filled with genuine love. Meanwhile, in Manila, the case against Elena's foster parents moved into the trial phase. With evidence of forged documents and Mrs. Luzviminda's testimony, the court declared them guilty of falsifying records, abusing the resettlement program, and hiding a child's true origins. They were banned from contacting Elena in any way. On the day she received the verdict, Elena felt neither joy nor triumph. She only felt a closure like shutting a door that had long since rotted. Though the lost years of her childhood couldn't be recovered, justice had been served. The only thing she kept from her foster family was her relationship with Paulo. Her younger brother messaged her as soon as he found out. 8. No matter what happens, I'm still your brother. And Elena believed him. They stayed in touch, sometimes video calling, sharing small stories as if the distance between their two worlds never existed. A few weeks later, on a quiet afternoon in San Isidro, Elena sat on the porch with her mother, watching the sunset paint the rice fields golden. Marco was laughing and talking with the neighborhood kids, while the wind carried the scent of sampaguita from the garden. Elena gently clutches the embroidered handkerchief with her name, a keepsake from the past, and a symbol of her journey to find herself. She realizes that justice isn't just about punishing the wrongdoer, but also about giving the hurt a chance to heal. And for Elena, that healing begins in the arms of the mother who spent 25 years searching to find her. Elena understands that this journey has changed her forever. The truth can sometimes be like a blade. It hurts when it cuts, but that cut is what leads to freedom. She lost her childhood but found her roots, her real name, and the embrace of the mother who never stopped looking for her for over 2 decades. Through it all, Elena realizes, family isn't only defined by blood. Family is those who are ready to love, protect, and stand by you, even if your bloodlines don't match. It's love and sincerity that bind people together, not the secrets they hide. Elena's story reminds us, past doesn't define you, but knowing it can set you free. If you were in her shoes, knowing your adoptive parents hid a big truth like that, could you forgive them? Share your thoughts in the comments, because maybe your answer could be the strength someone else needs while searching for their own truth. Thank you for watching today's story on Crying Inside. If this video touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so more people can hear these emotional and meaningful stories. See you in the next video, where we'll continue journeys of self-discovery, healing, and love.